Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Annalise, Great Education Colorado, Director of Communication and Social Media. I am excited on this Friday to have an opportunity to bring Lisa Weil, our Executive Director, to the screen and share with us some breaking news about school finance and other relevant information to help you through this legislative session and as we wrap up the end of the year. I do have a special guest in the background. They may join us and provide more background noise. Lisa, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, Annalise, and this shout out to Aurora, reminding us why we do the work we do.
Yes, and doing special effects. She's got that down
Yeah, for
and
sure.
knows how to interrupt anytime as a filler. She's so excited that it's Friday
Well, I think
and
she's
that
excited about school finance, Annalise.
even more. I think it's
Even
really
more.
that. Anything about money, she's happy. So that's good. So Lisa, tell us, why are we on this Friday? Everyone's getting ready to end their week, but you know what? We thought, hey, we should tell people before they go on the weekend break some uplifting news.
Yeah.
So tell us
Well,
what would you like to share?
we do have some news. So there's two things that the legislature has to do every year. One is pass a budget, and the other is to do a school finance act. And that school finance act has to decide how much each district is going to get to fund schools. And this year, the good news is that we're going to be getting beyond inflation, which is pretty high this year. There's going to be a little bit more money to try to get us back up to where we were the what we've fallen behind inflation since the Great Recession. What people call the budget stabilization factor, which was kindly we can call the BS factor, but it's going to be reduced by probably 150 to 180 million dollars this year, which sounds like a lot, but and it is. It's a great step, and we really appreciate what the legislature has done. They're also giving $30 million to rural schools because they've really been hammered over the inflation and the cuts that have happened over all these years. So that's really good news. Um, and another thing that we're really excited about, and something that we've been pushing for a long time, is that the state's going to actually do a study to um, figure out how much it actually costs to get all of our students, every one of our students, no matter where they live and how they learn, to get all of them to meet standards, to have what are the resources that our schools need. We're actually going to study that. The state has a plan to study that in this bill, which just dropped less than 48 hours ago. So that those are the things that we're really excited about. The bill is probably going to be done by the middle of next week because it happens pretty fast once it was dropped. So that's why we wanted to let folks know now.
That is exciting. It is also a little late in the game, 2023, to finally get a study on knowing what the actual costs are for meeting school needs. It makes you think, hey, if we already knew we weren't meeting the needs, we're
No,
probably even further behind than we could have projected. So,
you yeah, you are absolutely right. And a study has been done like this. It was about 10 years ago for a lawsuit, but it wasn't done by the state. But back then, we found out how far behind we were in just meeting the needs of kids at risk, as special needs kids, kids who are learning English. We have been underfunding those for so long, and it's really a step forward for the legislature to say, "Hey, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's take a look at it." It's a really scientific method that most states have done, and with that, we can look next year to rewrite the School Finance Act, which has been the same for almost 30 years. We can look at it and make sure, are we spending money on, to make sure that students get what they need, the resources and the supports they need to really succeed. So when we get this done, we can really make a whole lot better policy about how much we need to spend and how to spend those dollars.
That is a huge deal.
It
And
is a huge deal.
a decade ago, the needs have changed, I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. The standards have changed.
mhm,
Yeah, what we're
abs-
asking our schools to accomplish has changed.
mhm.
The mental health needs is something that we need to take, when you're trying to get a student to standards, you gotta also make sure that they are in a place where they're ready to learn. And so the kinds of supports that need to be provided, those are the things that we need to study and really recognize what is it, like you said, what does a school in 2024 need to meet the needs of all their students?
We do know that there's been a decrease in enrollments throughout, for kids throughout the nation. However, we also know we have to prepare for kids like Aurora.
Like Aurora.
So we know that there was the COVID babies, popping out of nowhere. People had multiple kids. So we know that even though things are currently a little dim maybe for some districts, without a large population, even some of the largest districts in the state dealing with lower and decreased enrollment, whether it's been moving out or just the aging out, it's going to be an interesting balance. Say, hey, with this study, what's going on right now, what do they
Right.
need, and to help with projections in the future to be accurately reflected and not just be on a tight budget that won't be flexible in the future, because in 10
Yeah.
years you're going to have a whole new set of
That's
kids.
that's exactly right. And one of the things you have to think about, we talk about it's declining enrollment, and they try to figure out how to not make the cliff so bad if you've lost students for any of those reasons that you mentioned. But when you think about it, if you got a school of 400 and you lose 3 or 4 kids, you're not losing any costs. Not having 4 kids doesn't mean we're going to have enough. We don't need a teacher now, or don't need to clean the bathrooms anymore. Those needs are all still there, but the district is getting thousands of dollars less, and so that's why even if the numbers of kids aren't as much, there aren't as many kids, the costs don't go down with the same, like with the percent of the number of kids you lose. So those are the kinds of things that a school finance act really has to be aware of, because we have to remember why we're doing this. It's for students. It's to make sure that every student is going to a welcoming school that's adequately and equitably and sustainably funded. That's the goal, so that they can all graduate and thrive.
I have just one more question in relation to this is the biggest increase in funding that we're going to see. Um, is that actually true? And does that mean our schools will have what they need, or that they do have what they need, or how can they rely on this new influx of funds?
Annalise, that is a great question, because that's what a lot of folks are saying, is that this is the biggest numerical increase ever, and that is true. But this is the highest inflation has been in I don't know how long. It was 8%, and so a lot of those dollars are just trying to keep up with inflation. I mean, anybody who's listening knows that if you have the same amount of money, if you increase, just barely by inflation, your buying power hasn't changed. The ability to really increase the amount that you can pay teachers, or to be able to expand the number of teachers that you can pay, is, if we're just barely staying over inflation, that's not going to make the kind of difference we need to attract and retain teachers and give students the mental health support that they need. So one way to think about this, and I mentioned the BS factor, if when we get rid of the BS factor, there's still $171 million left to get rid of that debt. What that gets us to is the inflation adjusted level per pupil that we were spending in 1989. So we can party like it's 1989 when the BS factor finally disappears. Um, and all that is getting us back to before, we had standards, and before there were a lot more needs and more expectations of our schools. So we're still behind 1989. We are grateful for the increase, and that the legislature has been planning this and socking money away to make it possible to give this big dollar increase. But it's still It's still not where our students need to be. And how are we going to know what we need to make sure our students can get what they need to succeed? That's where that costing out study that's in the School Finance Act comes in. And that is why it's such great news, so that we can not be setting our sights at like trying to get back to 1989 or 1999, which is actually lower. Um, we can actually set our sights on giving our students and making sure kids like Aurora are going to have the schools with the resources and support they need to make this to for every student to thrive all across Colorado.
Thanks, Lisa. And I appreciate that breakdown and explanation. And I look forward to us being able to talk again with more information and how folks can join in on this work. I know Great Ed, we are working on a lot of things behind closed doors and are ready to, continue to galvanize support. Like
you bet. And Aurora really wants us to do this. Are we going to see Aurora?
Yes, here we go.
Baby, look at that baby.
This is for kids like Aurora.
That's why we're doing this
cameo.
I haven't seen her for a few weeks. She's but still the hair.
Yes,
that's why we're doing this thing.
She's excited to know that people do care about kids in Colorado, educators in Colorado.
We do.
And that, they do deserve the best. And I'm looking forward to hearing what these numbers are for the study. So I honestly, I was born in 1989. So to hear that an inflation adjustment is still only equal to back when I was around, I remember it, schools not really being funded then. So, and the donated computers with the neon backs. So hopefully we don't have to go to those, those actions and with grants to just get kids access anymore, and we can actually have a sustainable funding system established in Colorado in particular. Thanks again, Lisa.
You bet. And folks can sign up for greateducation.org and share this so we get more folks on Facebook, because we can do this thing together and make the world right for Aurora.
Yes, there she is.
Happy weekend.
Thank you again,
Thanks,
Lisa.
Families.